How's it? How is lockdown going? Thanks to the now infamous coronavirus, many of us are stuck at home trying to flatten out the curve. And during this time, you might be wondering how on earth you are not going to go stir crazy. Hi, I'm Anthea from Rebel Zoom, and I'm an online marketing specialist who works from home, which basically means that this is my daily life. So I thought I would share with you 5 practical tips that you can employ to not go crazy during this time, and more importantly, actually to take advantage of this time and the opportunity that it actually presents. Tip number 1. If you can't remember when last you showered, it's time to take a shower. On the same vein, try to change your underwear as often as you usually would, because crusty underwear is nasty. Tip number 2, get out of bed. No, seriously. I know it's really nice to just stay in bed and relax all day, but that is how you start to get depressed. It is so important to get up and get going. When you stay in bed for long periods of time, and especially when you don't really move your body, that's when a person starts to get depressed. Try have a routine. If you are going to be working from home, like many people have now brought work from home, it's very important to try and keep in the same sort of rhythm as you would have when you were at work. It's very tempting just to go, oh yeah, I'll get to it. But trust me, that's not going to work. It's really important that you develop a routine and then you stick to it. Tip number 3. You know how we all love to say, oh, I don't have time for this? Well, guess what? You don't have that excuse anymore. There is so much that we want to do with our lives that we can just never really get around to. Well, now you've got time. Now you've got the time to really work out how you want to plan your day and spend it that way. Ever dreamed of doing yoga before work, or doing a daily morning meditation, or reading more, or I don't know, cleaning out the sink? This is the time to do all of those things that you always wanted to do. This is the time to do you. Tip number 4, to the parents who are worried. To be frank, this particular point might cause some controversy. So I would like to encourage you, if you feel uncomfortable or attacked, try not to take this personally, and rather use this time just to reflect on why this might make you feel uncomfortable, and perhaps that might present some opportunities for things you can work on with your family. We've already started with the school holidays. There's a fair number of parents who are already feeling rather anxious around their children. They might already be starting to drive you mad. Now, yes, I know, I don't have children, so I'm a fine one to talk. But I am a qualified teacher, and I did work with children for years. And one of the things that I found incredibly frustrating and very sad, to be frank, was often the children with the behavioral problems were also the children whose parents would come in and expect me as the teacher to fix all of their issues. They wouldn't understand how I, as the teacher, couldn't control their child. But I also know they are the parents who during the holidays basically run away from their children because they don't know how to control them. To be frank, if you can't control your own child, how do you expect somebody else to? It shouldn't be a problem for you to spend time with your children. It shouldn't feel like a punishment. And if it does, and if you feel like you can't control your children, something's off. And while I'm not trying to criticize you as a parent, because heaven knows how difficult that is, and especially in our culture of people always having to be at work, often you very rarely see your children. Now is a time that you can really connect with your children, really strengthen your bonds with them. Unfortunately, things like TVs and, tragically, tablets, I think have really increased this disconnect between parents and their children. Lots of people leave their children to be raised by tablets. And you know what? I don't blame you. But at the same time, it means that the child is constantly looking for stimulation. And they're constantly bouncing off the walls, and they're constantly looking for this and this and this. Whereas now, You don't have all these external things going on in your life that's demanding your attention, which is forcing you to, for example, make you give the child a tablet to keep them quiet. Now you've got time. So really, and I know I'm stepping on toes when I say this, but really, if you feel worried about this time, and if you feel anxious that your children are going to drive you mad, maybe think about why you feel like you can't control them. And then think about, perhaps, is there anything you can do to build a relationship with them, to perhaps, if necessary, build a bit of discipline or rapport, or something that will allow you to have more control and feel more comfortable around the children. Maybe if you're having discipline problems, now's the time to work on them, is all I'm saying. Also, it's worth mentioning that the Department of Education has released a whole section of study materials for children who are busy trying to keep on with their studies at home. This includes things for matrics and all age groups, so that's really worth looking at. Tip number 5. If you're anything like me, chances are food is a rather large part of life, which means you're probably going to find yourself standing in front of your fridge at some point, opening it up, looking idly at it. You're not even going to remember how you got there. You're just looking for food. This is what we call grazing. And when you're stuck at home all day I'd love to have a pantry, with a cupboard full of food from panic buying, it's really easy just to start overeating. And yeah, I mean, it's okay if we overeat because of all the exercise that we're busy doing now that we're at home, right? No, let's just be real. Trying not to overeat when you're at home is actually really hard, especially for those of us who might be working at home. So now you're trying to get into a routine, you're trying to work, and then you find yourself constantly eating to kind of avoid working or because you're bored. There are 3 things I have found that really help with reducing the amount that one grazes. The very first thing is to have something set aside specifically for snacking, something that you don't really like eating much. So, I don't know, carrot sticks, chopped up apple, something like that. Something that you wouldn't normally just go and eat necessarily. And what you'll find is when you go hunting for food, now you've got something specific to look for, and then you know if you don't want to eat it, you're actually not hungry. But if you do eat it, maybe then you're hungry. That brings me on to the second thing. Try only to eat sitting down. The reason for this being is when you're eating and you're standing, you're not actually focusing on your food. But if you eat and you sit down, you tend to not just munch for the sake of munching. And that's also why it's a good idea to not try eating too much while watching TV. Because again, you're just going to eat for the sake of eating, and then you're going to go get back and eat more food, and you're just going to end up coming out of this time this size. Finally, try stick to your normal eating routine. So if you're someone who eats 3 meals a day, eat those 3 meals a day. Have your breakfast, lunch, and supper. Or if you're someone who fasts in the morning, then fast and have lunch and supper. Try not to have lots of snacks in between. And also just be aware that because you're at home and stationary, most likely, you're going to actually need far less food. Be aware that when you're eating, your portions actually should be a bit smaller than usual. So in summary, this really is the most amazing time to just reflect. Sit back, work out what it is that you want to be doing with your life. Design your time how you would like to generally spend it without all of the usual distractions that one has in life. If you're cooped up at home with friends or family, now is the perfect time to really build connection, to really spend time together, build memories that you're going to treasure for the rest of your life. If you think about it, this is a time out that's going to give you the opportunity to work on your life in a way that you never ever would have had the chance or opportunity to do. So use it. Please leave a comment and tell me what it is that you're hoping to be able to achieve by the end of this lockdown. What you would like to be able to look back on and reflect and say, hey, look, this is how I used my time. What is it that you're afraid of? What is it that you are excited for? I'd love to hear from you. Finally, please keep an eye on this channel because I do have a couple of other ideas that I'd love to be sharing, including how businesses can be taking advantage of this downtime to come out stronger than ever before, and how you can use this period to become both more employable or how to even make your own money online. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you later. Cheers!